Welcome back to the Rad City Design Studio. Today I have an epic Dollar Tree haul as well as a holiday pendant design that is perfect for heirloom quality necklaces. If you want to skip the haul and go right to the project, skip to the 5-minute 30-second mark. Okay, starting off the haul, I have these glass beads that I found in so many different colorways. I really liked the way they looked, and some of them have like an iridescent shimmer to them. So I thought, wow, I think I could make something really fun with these. And they were only $1.25 a piece, so I absolutely had to pick them up. Look at how many different options you get. I liked how they were all sorted, but I ended up just dumping them each into a little baggie because I can't help myself. Here is a snow globe. I bought this specifically to make something for my mom, which I may make a video of and put that up next week for Christmas. But this is just a simple little snow globe. These usually go for way more at like Michael's, but this one was super cheap. I love these little boxes. Every time I go, I buy at least one or two of them. They're perfect for storing things like pigment, little nail chromes, mica powders, whatever you want. And I love that they come with a lid so that you can stack them on top of each other. I found these. I love doing scratch art. This was one of my favorite things to do as a kid. And I don't know if this will be resin friendly, but I'll definitely find something to do with it, even if it's just to doodle. Next up, I found these silicone pads, and they're technically glue gun heat pads so that you can rest your glue gun on them. But I use a lot of different style silicone pads, and I thought these would be perfect for like making rings and things like that because they're thin and they fold up really nicely. And so when I opened it, I actually realized it's, I was afraid that it was just going to be thin and cheap and not really great because, it's $1.25, but it actually was surprisingly sturdy. It's very flexible, but it does have a little bit of weight to it. So like I said, like it's perfect for rolling up and making rings out of, or just laying flat. It will take a little while for it to relax out because it was bent in, in the middle there. But it will definitely do the job. And I also like, because of the thinness, you can also cut it down to size. So if you needed smaller pieces, you could definitely take one of these and chop it into smaller bits. So not too bad for $1.25. I ended up picking up 3 of these. I picked up these cute little stencils. I plan to use them alongside my nail builder gel. I think this will make some really cute little impressions. And for that price, really, you can't go wrong. There's a lot of different botanical styles. They had several different packs of these, but this was definitely my favorite. I have to say, the Crafter Square line from Dollar Tree is really starting to take off. I found this nail stamp. Unfortunately, they didn't have like the stamper, but those are a dime a dozen. I found these paper clips. I plan to have a little craft coming up, either as a short or here on the channel, using those. I think you'll really like that. These little acrylic gems, again, were for the project for my mom, but they were gorgeous, and worst comes to worst, I can use them as vase filler. I talked about this in my last Dollar Tree haul. Every time I go to Dollar Tree, I always pick these up. They are perfect for mixing your own glitter, storing leftover mica powder, whatever you need. They're fantastic. I thought that these were silicone, but they're not. They're hard plastic. But even still, I think that they're going to be great for mixing resin or pushing, the builder gel around, and they have the points at the end. So if I ever have to pierce like a piece of paper or something like that, it will definitely do that. So for the price, I really couldn't say no to them. So Dollar Tree has definitely stepped up with the different offerings they have for resin making. I haven't tried this mold out yet, but it seems okay. It's got some cool shapes in it. And if you're just getting started and you don't want to invest a lot of money in buying a bunch of molds, this is a great place to start. Now, this is what I was absolutely blown away by. At my Dollar Tree, they had these Crafter Square pliers in 3 different types, and I cannot believe these were $1.25. I bought all three, of course, because how could I say no? I was afraid like once I took them out that they would be either like kind of weird, like when you squeeze them, they might catch or something like that, but they actually work really nicely. Like this style, it tends to almost buckle under me pressing it together. So this is a nice little spring in it, and it works, you know, it actually feels really substantial. So I was very, very surprised by the quality of these pliers. Let's try these babies out. So I'm going to start my project with 2 circle connectors. So I laid them on my silicone pad from the haul, and then I nudged them into place so that the middle ring was perfectly centered in the larger ring. I filled the gap between the 2 rings with UV resin, and then I just used something pointy to make sure the resin fully flooded that area and that it touched all of the sides of both rings. So I let that sit for just a moment to let it self-level, and then I cured it for about 2 minutes just to be safe. With a layer this thin, it probably could have been less, but 2 minutes made sure it was perfectly cured. Next, I used a few drops of Picasso alcohol ink, dropping it directly onto the resin. Now, some people like to mix it into their resin, and that's totally fine as long as you're sandwiching it between two clear layers, but I actually prefer it this way because you get a more saturated color. So originally I did this on the front side of, you know, what I would have considered the front side of my item, but my shaky hands, I just couldn't keep the color off of the gold rings. So I ended up cleaning it off with some alcohol, and then I dropped the alcohol ink on the back of this so that, you know, the color comes from that side of things. Now you can let this dry on your own, or if you've taken the oath of safety, you can use a lighter to very carefully and very slowly burn off the alcohol, leaving behind that pigment. I coated the back with another layer of resin, then I cured it for 2 minutes to lock in the color. Now you could use any color, you could use any other method, mica powder, acrylic paint, paint pens, whatever you want. Just make sure that you're using your due diligence in not adding too much so that it doesn't compromise your resin. This next part is optional, but I decided to try my hand at sculpting a bird from wire. I tried. When I'm making a little bezel, I like to look for inspiration on Pinterest. It's just the fastest way to find quality pictures. For this dove, I found a little line drawing, and then I pulled the image up on my phone and I laid a piece of scrap plastic over that, and then I used a Sharpie to roughly outline the shape. Now, honestly, the more simple the image, the easier it's going to be to replicate it with wire. You don't want to try to get a lot of detail in. It's never going to work. You just want to stick with something very simple. Now, this wire is 24 gauge craft wire. I think this was actually 72 cents on clearance at maybe Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I don't remember, but it was very, very cheap. I used my template and just followed the curves in my drawing with that wire. You'll have parts that overlap. Don't worry about that because as we go, we can trim away any excess. And you may have to try each shape more than once using more wire. So I definitely recommend sticking with copper craft wire because it's inexpensive and it's very versatile. I'm using the Dollar Tree pliers for my haul, and again, I was really skeptical how they would work because they were $1.25 each, and some of my crafting tools are very, very expensive. I have to say these are great. They're very sturdy, they spring very easily, and they fit very nicely in my hand. I feel like for the most part, you kind of get what you pay for, but Dollar Tree has almost never let me down when it comes to their Crafter Square line. I'm consistently kind of blown away by the things that they put out. I definitely think I'm going to go back and get a couple more of these, especially those round nose pliers, because I tend to lose those most frequently, and these were great. If you have a Dollar Tree near you, run, do not walk. Go pick these up. If you don't, you can check out the video description for a really nice set that I swear by. Now the wings were a little tricky. I had to keep trimming away at them until they sat the way I wanted. I wanted one to look like it was coming, from the far side of the bird. You could use a drop or two of resin to fix your pieces together as you work, or you could also lay your pieces down on a piece of tape just to hold it all together. Once I had my frame exactly how I wanted it, I filled it in with UV resin and then I cured it for a full 3 minutes. I'm actually surprised by the silicone pad. It's nice, it's thin, it's pliable. It makes it ideal for ring making, which I'll probably show in an upcoming video. But I'm actually very impressed by these as well. I used a little bit of acrylic paint to cover the back of the piece and to let it dry for about an hour. I used a little bit of chrome powder to dust the front side of my frame, and then I coated that in another layer of resin. I know it seems like a lot of resin, but the more layers you build, the more the piece will start to feel very substantial. UV resin is not really ideal for casting in molds, but it's great for building up glass-like layers. I laid my dove over the top of the wreath to get a feel for how I wanted to position it. And then once I was happy, I put a few drops of resin down and then gently placed the dove back on top of the ring. I cured it from every angle possible until it stayed put when I tugged on it. Then I used a diamond drill bit to add a hole to the top. I added in a jump ring and here it is. It's so gorgeous. I really love the simple design. The color of the dove really provides a beautiful contrast to the green wreath, and I'm just super pleased with how it came out. I used that same technique to make a cardinal for my mom. She really loves cardinals, so this was a sweet little piece that I knew she would adore. This same technique can be applied in so many different ways. I used that same wreath technique to make another wreath, and then I added a little thin layer of resin and laid it into this little pencil tray. I grabbed that green set of beads from my Dollar Tree haul and basically just dumped it directly onto the resin on the wreath. I very carefully pulled that out and then cured it. I made a little flower using rhinestones and attached it to the wreath using a little dollop of resin. And there she is. I think it's such a cute way to use simple materials to create something that's really dynamic, and I think it would make an awesome gift. Or maybe I'll just keep it. We'll see. I hope you had fun crafting with me today. Tell me in the comments which pendant you'd like to see gift wrapped under your tree. So go make something awesome, and I'll see you back in the studio next week. As always, don't forget to stay rad. If you loved these projects, check out my resin tutorial playlist.